Okay, so in the essence of time, I'm going to get started since it's now 12:31. So hello and welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lindsay Ducharme. I'm a kidney dietitian, and I wanted to talk about a topic I'm very passionate about, why handouts aren't the solution for meeting your kidney health goals. So just a little bit of background on me. I've been a registered dietitian for 15 years, and I am board certified in renal nutrition. I've worked exclusively with the chronic kidney disease population since 2014. So I started off as a dietitian working in various hospital settings, nursing homes. And in 2014, I got a job at a dialysis center, and I haven't looked back from renal nutrition since then. So I love how working with kidney disease, nutrition plays such an important role in people's health outcomes and their quality of life. So that's really what interested me in renal nutrition. So I started my own private practice in 2021, which is now called Vital Kidney Nutrition. So I'm able to work with people online, providing nutrition counseling to those throughout the US. And my main goal when working with people is to help them slow or stop the progression of their kidney disease. So that's just a little bit about me. So let's get into the presentation. So I'm going to be talking about this particular handout today and reasons why I really dislike it. So, but there are so many handouts like this on the internet being passed out by doctors or even dietitians who have little knowledge of the current guidelines for kidney disease. So you will never be given a handout like this from a kidney dietitian. And after this presentation, I hope that you will understand why. So I imagine a lot of you have been in this situation. So you're newly diagnosed with kidney disease and you're scared. You know, the sound of chronic kidney disease just has a very scary tone to it. So you never even thought about your kidneys until this moment. And then you begin to think, okay, what can I do to stop this disease? How can I make it get better? And a lot of times your doctor may not have a lot of advice. You may have asked them about diet and they simply said, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to follow a special diet. So then maybe you go to the internet. And if you Google something like diet handout for kidney disease, something like this is most likely going to pop up in those first few Google searches. So in fact, if you Google renal diet handout, this is the #1 handout that pops up. And this one in particular, I'm especially not a fan of. So I'll be kind of going over some problems with this handout and why it is not really a good way to eat if you have chronic kidney disease. So first of all, let me just actually share the handout just so you can get a better picture of what it is telling you, so you have more of an idea of what I'm talking about. So let me pull it up. Okay, here it is. So this handout was put out by the New York Presbyterian Hospital. So in the top section, it's very vague. It says, if you have kidney disease, you may need to control potassium, phosphorus, sodium, protein, and fluid in your diet. And then it goes on to say below are foods or food groups, which these nutrients are typically high. So potassium, fruits and vegetables and dairy are typically high. Phosphorus, found in processed packaged foods, dairy, beans, and whole grains, etc. And then it will go on to show you foods to choose and then foods to avoid in different food groups. So we have the dairy group, milk, fruits, breads, rolls, cereals, vegetables, and so forth. So let's talk about why we can't really rely on lists like this when we are trying to eat, especially to improve kidney function. So first and foremost, it's simply not practical or realistic to live your life by a list. So I know why people like lists. They simplify things. It's concrete, but in reality, that is not how nutrition works. It is not black and white. So there are hundreds and thousands of foods on our planet. So to think that there's only a dozen foods in each food group that someone with kidney disease is allowed to eat, and a dozen foods that you should avoid, I mean, that's just flat out crazy. So think of this scenario. If you're out to eat with a friend for a special occasion, and what if there is food options that aren't on the list at all? So you're seeing food items that aren't on the choose list or the avoid, then what are you to do? So I know a lot of people tell me they're terrified to eat, so they simply just don't eat. And that is heartbreaking to me. That's not a way to live your life. Food should be enjoyed, and it can be enjoyed if you have chronic kidney disease. And simply not eating results in unintended weight loss, loss of muscle mass, loss of functionality, which is negatively affecting your kidney health and your quality of life. So another reason why these lists are not helpful is that people with kidney disease have different nutrition needs. So lists of foods to eat and avoid assume all people with kidney disease have the exact nutrition needs, but this is absolutely not the case. Each person with CKD has their own unique nutrition needs. And your nutrition needs are based on many factors. So things like your stage of kidney disease, your cause of kidney disease, lab results, medications, and other health conditions as well. So even in the current guidelines that we use as dietitians that kind of make recommendations for kidney disease, there is no blanket restriction for nutrients. Like things like potassium, not everyone needs to limit potassium. So that is another reason why we can't necessarily go by these lists. So another reason why these lists are not helpful is they're a lot of times based on outdated nutrition information. So for example, you will notice if you take a look at that diet handout, let me see if I can bring it up again. I'm just going to show you a couple things that are definitely outdated. Okay. So you will notice on this list, just to point out a couple things. So in the breads group, you're going to see avoid whole wheat bread. So it looks like it's having you select all the white breads, French bread, Italian, sourdough, white. So a lot of people realize that whole grains are important, but apparently, if you have kidney disease, they're not good. And again, this is outdated information. Another example, in the avoid list, you're going to see things like dried beans, lentils, and then you're going to see things like nuts. So these foods are very healthy foods. So you may be wondering, why are they on the avoid list? So it was once thought that plant foods like whole grains, nuts, beans were high in phosphorus. So they are a natural source of phosphorus, but what research shows us is that our body cannot absorb the type of phosphorus in plant foods very efficiently. We only absorb, it varies from like 10 to 50% of the phosphorus in plant foods is actually making it into our body. So in reality, plant foods are not the issue when it comes to phosphorus, but a lot of these handouts still tell people to avoid these foods. So another reason why these lists are not helpful is they really don't teach you anything about moderation. So believe it or not, there's really only one food that people with kidney disease truly need to avoid, which is star fruit. You may have heard me say that before or see it in a post, but it's true because star fruit is the one food that we know through research, through case studies, can be toxic, and really it's only if it's eaten in large quantities, but we usually still recommend avoiding it just out of precaution. And of course, you do want to avoid the foods that you can't tolerate. Like if you're lactose intolerant, you want to be careful with dairy still. And if you have, if you're on certain medications that interact with certain foods, like grapefruit is a big one that can interact with a lot of medications. Yes, you do want to be careful with those, but because you have kidney disease, really star fruit is the only thing that you want to avoid. So even people that do need to be careful with things like potassium, it doesn't necessarily mean they need to eliminate all high potassium foods from their diet. So first of all, believe it or not, most people are not even meeting the adequate intake for potassium. So if you're already not getting a lot of potassium and then taking out the high potassium foods and lowering your potassium intake further, this is actually setting you up for risk of other health issues. So potassium is extremely important for our heart health, and it even plays a role in healthy bones. So just because you need to limit potassium doesn't mean you need to cut your potassium intake to zero. And you can still fit in these high potassium foods. For instance, if you have, if you're someone who, loves tomato sauce, and you see tomato on the avoid list because of high in potassium, so you can easily fit it into your diet just by reducing the amount. So if you, instead of, a serving of tomato sauce is usually half a cup. So say you cut that in half to a quarter cup of tomato sauce. You have just turned a higher potassium food into a medium potassium food. And the opposite is true. So you may say, okay, like I've been told to limit potassium, but yay, like strawberries are on the low potassium list, and I love strawberries. But say you eat 5 servings of strawberries, you've just turned a low potassium food into a high potassium food. So your body doesn't necessarily know the difference whether it's getting potassium from a strawberry versus a tomato. So you can choose to use your potassium allowance however you wish. But that is something that you're not really going to learn how to do through a handout. So the fact of the matter is, handouts are not the key to slowing the progression of your chronic kidney disease. And I'm sure, from what I've said already, you can kind of figure out why. So in reality, removing, just simply replacing, say you eat bananas, you see it on the avoid list, so you swap a banana for an apple. Yeah, if you're, someone who eats too much potassium and dealing with hyperkalemia, yes, I mean, that is a good change. But in reality, swapping out singular foods aren't really making a big difference in the nutrient density of your diet overall. So it's really about your overall eating pattern that matters the most. So another thing to realize is handouts, they're not individualized to your nutrition needs. And that is one of the essential things that you'll want to get in order to figure out how to slow the progression of your disease. You need to get an individualized plan based on your cause of kidney disease, your labs, your other health conditions. For most people with kidney disease, it's usually caused by another condition. So that is kind of where we're targeting our nutrition therapy sometimes. So without getting that individualized plan, you're really going to be missing the mark when it comes to trying to slow the progression of your kidney disease. So another reason why handouts aren't going to be the key to slowing progression of kidney disease is that they reduce the variety in your diet. So it really is important for managing kidney disease to get a wide variety of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. These things are going to be very protective for not only your kidney health, but your body as a whole. So if you are following a list that is telling you you can only have, a handful of different fruits and vegetables, and you're eating the same fruits and vegetables day in and day out, you're really missing an opportunity to increase your nutrient needs and increase your nutrient intake. So that's something a lot of people don't realize. So of course, it is easy when you say, okay, like these are the foods I can eat, so these are the foods I'm going to buy every week, and then it just gets kind of ingrained in your head. But it is a missed opportunity when your diet is lacking variety. So the best way to meet your kidney health goals, so for most people, their kidney health goals revolve around slowing the progression of their kidney disease or even stopping it. But working with a kidney dietitian, I'm sure this is not a surprise to hear from what I've said so far, but there are a lot of dietitians out there, and believe it or not, not every dietitian is up to date with the latest recommendations for kidney disease. So a lot of dietitians in the hospital are still even, promoting the quote unquote old renal diet. Basically the new renal diet, which is really, something we've been practicing for, a decade or so. What research supports is going to help protect your kidney function is really more of a plant-focused diet. So I don't like to say plant-based because that makes people think, okay, like, do I need to become vegan? The answer is no, not necessarily. You do not necessarily have to give up animal proteins entirely, but more of a plant-focused eating pattern. So including things like fruits and vegetables at your meals, including things like beans and legumes and nuts for protein. These foods found in nature are very gentle on the kidneys while also providing lots of nutrients, antioxidants, fibers. All these things are going to be excellent for slowing down the progression of your kidney disease. So, a kidney dietitian can help you also understand the disease process of kidney disease. So, a lot of people, they're just given so little information. When you meet with your doctor, sometimes they maybe only have 5 or 10 minutes. Um, so some people feel very alone, and it's scary when you don't know a lot about your medical condition. You're left to, search Google, where you're going to find all this scary information like, oh, I could end up on dialysis. Like, it's not that every person with kidney disease is going to end up on dialysis. But that's what many people think, and it's absolutely terrifying to them. So I do try and help people understand the disease process, because it kind of increases people's confidence, lowers their stress level a little bit when they're more aware of what's going on in their body. But a kidney dietitian can also help you understand what areas of your diet need tweaking. So a lot of times people don't need to necessarily make a complete change of their diet overnight. You just want to focus on most people realize, like, okay, like maybe I am relying on, a lot of processed packaged snack food during the day. Maybe there's ways I can, tweak my snack to make it a little healthier. So as a kidney dietitian, I just help people, guide them through that process, give them ideas, to kind of, make it a little bit easier for them. So I'm also going to help you understand how to improve the quality of your diet. So by quality of diet, I mean a diet that is more rich in nutrients, all the positive vitamins and minerals that we want. So a kidney dietitian will also help you with putting together meal and snack ideas that are going to be focused on the goal of slowing the progression of your kidney disease. And we also talk about your lab results and how to monitor them, because that's another area that, many people may not be getting this knowledge from their doctor, and maybe they want to be able to better monitor their progress. And I think one of the most important things that I help people do is increase confidence in navigating food choices. So you don't want to feel like lost every time you're in the grocery store trying to put together a meal. So by kind of understanding your nutrient needs, how to meet them, that will increase your confidence when you're making food choices. And lastly, a kidney dietitian can just provide ongoing encouragement, support, motivation, because sometimes it's more than just knowing what to eat. So, most people know things like fruits and vegetables are healthy, but not everyone eats them all the time. So it's more to just knowing what to eat. You need to, some people need, more of a plan of action of getting that healthy food onto their plate. So in summary, handouts of foods to eat and avoid provide a false sense of security. So they contain lots of misinformation and often make people limit foods that they do not have to. Again, because they're not personalized to your nutrition needs. Not everyone needs the standard low potassium, low phosphorus, type of diet. And an individualized nutrition plan created by a kidney dietitian is really the best way to slow the progression of your kidney disease. So I'm going to stop here. And let me just, if you have a question, please feel free to type it into the chat, or you can unmute yourself. I'm just going to stop